Good morning, student. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Nice to meet you again this morning with our subject today that is about intensive course listening. Okay, for today's meeting, Eka will give you a different materials about listening. Last week, we discussed about a fairy tale. So you also did the exercises of comprehension related to the story of fairy tale. And now we come to legend. Before we start to do the listening exercises, Weka will remind you again about legend. What is legend? Legend is a traditional story or a group of story which told a particular person or a place. This is legend. And then when we listen to a legend, so what is the purpose of the legend? You ever learn this from senior high school and junior high school? That the goal, the purpose of a legend is to entertain or to amuse. Okay, that is to amuse the reader or listener when this is a kind of an audio. If the listener amuse and to entertain, this is the goal. And then I believe that all of you has been familiar with the word legend. We have so many legends in Indonesia. Okay, what are they? Can you mention them? Some legends in Indonesia? Okay, such as golden snail. And then Jaka Taro. And then Luto Kasaro. Sangkuriang. Tangkuban Perahu. And the beginning of Cianjur or Banyuwangi. And there are some others. There are so many. I cannot mention them all here, but I believe you are familiar with those of legends. And then, can you mention the legends from Western, from abroad? Have you ever listened or have you ever learned those? Okay, Eka will mention some of them. The legends from abroad, like Robin Hood. I think that you ever listened to the story of Robin Hood, or you ever watch the film of a Robin Hood. Secondly, like the King Arthur, Edelweiss, the legend of Singapore, the legend of a special place, Singapore, Philippines, okay, and many others places. And then from Japan, from example, we have legend from Japan like Momotaro and Kintaro. Those are just an examples. I cannot mention them all from many countries, but we are going to learn and listen to the story in English. You are going to know the unfamiliar words you never listened before. You have never listened before. So you are going to know about some vocabularies. Those are not difficult vocabularies, but only unfamiliar vocabularies. We are going to listen by learning to listen from the legend story. At last, okay, on a legend story, of course, involves moral value. What is moral value? Moral value are worthy principles that one follows or someone follows to distinguish the right from the wrong. Okay, this is the definition of moral value. So, we can say in other words that moral value is good virtue. Okay, this is moral value. So you are going to know from the story after you finish listening to the story. Of course, you are going to do some exercises. In comprehensions exercises, in multiple choices exercises, and then also in true or false, yeah, related to the legend story. And now Weka will deliver some comprehension exercises based on the story. Okay, you are going to listen after my explanation and look at the comprehension questions from the story. Okay, now read it. I just give you 5 questions on comprehension exercises for giving comments on this video. So only 5 for the first time, but you have to click the link on the description of the video to continue your practice. Okay, after you read the questions here on 5, now please listen to the audio carefully. Listen now.
A long time ago, in North Sumatra, there lived a poor young man in a valley. He had no parents, but the valley was beautiful, and anything he planted there grew wonderfully. He lived by farming and fishing in the river near his home. The food he made was not special, but he never went hungry. One afternoon, after working hard in the fields, he went fishing in the river. Today was not his day, though, and after hours of waiting, he still hadn't caught a single fish. This had never happened before. Disappointed, he pulled his rod out of the water. But just as his rod was leaving the water, a fish bit it. He pulled it out, and was very happy to see a pretty little goldfish on the end of the rod. The young man hurried home to cook the fish. He got home, put the goldfish on the kitchen table, and ran out to get some firewood from the garden. As he went, he licked his lips and thought about the fish. How good it would taste. But when he came back, the goldfish was gone. And where it had been, there sat 3 pieces of gold.
Good evening.
The man turned around and saw a beautiful woman standing in front of him. She had long, bright red straight hair that went down to her knees. And she had no clothes on. The man turned red and looked at his feet.
Who are you, oh beautiful lady? And where did you come from?
He said, "Oh," because it seemed right. She had to be magical.
I was that goldfish on your table. But I am no ordinary goldfish, as you can see.
She played with her hair and smiled at him.
Those gold coins were my scales.
The man looked at her, and then went red again and looked away. He had never seen such a beautiful woman before, and he was so lonely.
Will you marry me, oh beautiful lady?
He held his breath as he waited for her answer. He knew it was a very bold question to ask, but in stories, men always asked women like that, all bold. But the woman laughed.
I thought you would never ask. Believe me, it is a lonely life when you are a magical goldfish. I was waiting for someone to come and put their rod in my water. If you understand me.
Now the man went as red as her hair.
Really?
Yes. But there is one condition.
Suddenly, her smile disappeared, and the air in the room felt heavier.
You must never tell anyone that I was a fish. Do you understand?
Oh, of course.
The man hadn't thought of telling anyone. He didn't have any friends, and anyway, why would he tell them his beautiful wife used to be a fish?
But why, if I can ask?
Just promise me, you won't tell anyone, will you?
No, I promise.
The woman smiled and clapped her hands.
Well, then, I suppose we are married.
Just like that?
Just like that.
And just as naturally as it began, their marriage continued. They soon found that they were very similar. Although they had been lonely before, they only needed each other's company to feel happy. Soon they also had a son, who they named Samasur. Samasur grew as quickly as the flowers in the ground, and at 6 years of age, he was a strong and very naughty boy. His mother was always asking him to help her clean the house and bring dinner to his father in the fields. Some days, Samasur did as he was told, but most days he shouted, "No," and ran off to play. One day, as usual, Samasur was being naughty. He had refused to eat his breakfast, sang loudly while his mother worked, and now he was refusing to bring his father dinner.
Why don't you do it?
Because I'm cooking dinner for you.
Eventually, Samosur's mother convinced him to take a box of rice and fish to his father. It was a long walk through the fields, and as he went, Samasur started to feel hungry. So he opened the box, and the rice looked so fresh and delicious, and the fish so hot and juicy. He ate just a little of both, but that only made him feel more hungry, so then he ate a bit more, and all that was left were the fish bones. Hoping his father wouldn't notice, Samasur put the bones back in the box, wrapped it up, and continued on his way. When he found his father, he handed him the box, and was about to run away. But his father was hungry too, and he immediately opened the box and saw the bones. Samasur was fast, but his father was faster, and he quickly caught the boy.
Yes you are, you son of a fish.
The rains continued for weeks, but the man fell into a deep depression. He lay in his bed and listened to the rain and thunder outside, and cried. He did not work in the fields, or catch fish, and soon the small amount of rice he had was gone. Not that it mattered, because the rains were so heavy that he couldn't light a fire, and the valley started to flood. The man stayed in his house for as long as he could. Surely the rains would eventually stop. But they didn't, and finally he had to swim for his life, fighting the dancing waters and heavy rain. He didn't last long, though, because his will to live had disappeared with his wife and his son. The man was pulled down under the waters and never came back up. Still the rains went on, until the beautiful valley eventually turned into a lake. When the rains stopped, people came to see the lake that had formed. Although the man had no friends, some people knew about him, and his strange but beautiful wife. They knew he had died alone and miserable, although they did not understand where his wife and son had gone.
Okay, my students, what do you feel after you practice listening about the legend? I hope that you enjoy the story and then you can do exercises well. Okay, this is for our lesson today. This is for our study and learning today about the story of a legend. So you have to do the exercises on the link for the next practice and do your best. Thank you very much. See you again next week on the different material on the listening practice. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.